So, welcome back to Supernova Labs. An update on yesterday's video. Would you believe it? There's been movement. Sierra Space today have released a render of their Dream Chaser 201, which looks fairly similar to the open design we've just put out. I'm sure they were well ahead of us doing that. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to see that we've got the right idea. Also, the ESA transportation services ideas pitch was posted about today and is ending in 4 days. Would you believe it? It's almost like somebody was planning this. Oh man, it's funny because I don't know, like when you're just like mainlining the internet into your eyeballs, you just get to a point where you don't know whether you're actually creating the means and creating the future, or whether you just like you're so tapped in that you get this kind of like schizo ability to just predict things, or like you just become a bit of a magician. Oh, so wild. It's so wild. This is a little gyroid that I was printing the other day. It's like a minimal surface for heat transfer, but also like a very good way of printing aeroshells. So you got minimal weight, maximum strength. Man, what are we gonna do? I haven't heard back from Crowdcube yet. Kickstarter, I could set up. I could do with a bit of help, a bit of a hand with it if anybody sees this and wants to lend a hand. But yeah, submitted the Open Spaceplane project to the ESA Ideas portal today. So that should be ending at the end of this month. Also sent the pitch a couple of videos back to about 7 or 8 of the contacts I've built up over the years, people in venture capital networks and mentors, and like I don't know, random stacks of business cards. Like, hold on, let's get this out of here. There's about half of them. There's got like stacks and shoe boxes of bloody business cards. And people, all walks of life, most of whom by the time you email them have moved on. The only constant seems to be me. I'm still there doing this. It's just interesting, isn't it, when you put yourself in a situation where you're up against it. And then like the universe kind of colludes to lay it all up for you, so all you got to do is just keep walking down the path. I mean, I know it's not like physical an explanation, but I don't know. I think in general, society, all the people out there, they want us to be successful. I think sometimes it just takes time to lay up all the pieces and get it set up so it all comes to pass. just hope this is it. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how much more I've got in me. Oh man. Just want to get to a place where companies in space and industry and governments are all paying it forwards, because like it's not, I know it's a big industry and I know there's a lot of people involved, but relative to the size of space it is microscopic. And I don't know, maybe it's culturally being here in Manchester and the way people view the world here, but I don't know, one, you help people get along and everybody's kind of rooting for everybody else and trying to grow the size of the pie instead of trying to, I don't know, gobble the whole pie down themselves like some greedy mad pig. And that you make it yourself. I don't know, there's like a something humble about it, just being able to, I don't know, like how hard it is to make things. Like this is one of the little prototype space planes I was making the other day. This is one of the was testing like a unmanned and a manned variant. You can kind of see there's like a little bump for where all the people would come in. But just painting these, trying to work out how to paint them so you can get it looking okay. And like look how trash this paint job is. You wouldn't think that I used to paint Warhammer when I was a kid. And even this, I mean, you can see like massive bloody lines score down it and bloody drips everywhere. Oh man, we're spoilt by 3D printers and digital printers and all this. We don't have to think about putting pen to paper or brush to model anymore. You know, the car industry has a massive issue with this. You know, like when like body work and body shops, like people that know how to paint and get a good gloss finish. I mean, gloss finishes are a whole art in and of themselves. It's kind of why that is still grey. Because I did all the base coats for this this helmet and got the car body filler on there. I was laying it all up. I was like getting it sanded down and just for the life of me just could not get the profile to stay clean. Oh man, yeah, so I was the best thing is like matte paint. Matte paint hides all ills. You can't not gloss. You can't not gloss. A lot of processes now, they're like they come out of the mold and you just don't touch that surface. It's like a gloss finish surface, just very light sanding, very light polishing, like little edge cleanup and all that kind of thing, but 90% of the job is done by the time it comes out of the mold. It's just like getting like clipping off resin and all sorts. In fact, there was a video I was watching the other day about a Chinese drone startup, and they were doing like very traditional aircraft manufacturing. They had these carbon fiber molds they were making, and then they just come in with like laser cut what do you call it, spars and all the structure that goes into the aircraft, and they're just like sticking it in there with PVA glue, and it's like you just realise like quite how accessible this is. Like you could build that in a Fab Lab if you wanted to. It's just about having the files and like building the files for that, doing the engineering. That is a whole art in and of itself. But when you've got it, we've got all the tools we need. I think this is what people maybe don't see, because I've been in this world a long time now. I've been around Fab Labs, I've been in maker spaces for best part of a decade nearly, and it's, you get an appreciation for like what can be made, what can't be made, and what kind of materials are available and what processes are there, and the kind of expertise that you end up with these kind of spaces as well, and who's there. And honestly, I just think we could build anything. At this point, you could build anything in these spaces. That's why I wanted to build Fab Labs and maker spaces all over the country, because it's, I don't think you really appreciate how broad a solution something like this is until you're in one and you see people like on one level they're on the sewing machines like making their own rucksacks and bags from pattern pieces they've downloaded off the internet, and then the other half of it you've got the electronics bay where people are fixing like stage mics and that kind of thing. You end up with like all this cross-pollination of ideas, and yeah, it's just super powerful. It just gives you a sense of ownership over your life, that you're not reliant on Amazon or some third party to get the things that you need in life. Like, it's not to knock all that infrastructure. Like, it's like the classic like go back to monkey / modern world thing. There's a place for both, and I think almost like doing things yourself and working through the processes, like all the DIY stuff. I mean, people work on their own houses and their own cars. They see it. There's still value to paying somebody to do the hard stuff, because you know how hard it is. But yeah, I don't know, like whether people want to hear me list off all this rubbish that I'm thinking about at the minute. It's a lot less structured than normal videos. Give me an idea. Give me a sign that this is what you're after, whether it's entertaining or not. But yeah, interesting times. I think whatever happens at the end of this month, I'm fairly confident that we'll get there. Like, as a species, as a planet. When I first started, I was terrified of the future. I used to think that, I don't know, like we were on a timeline and that we just could not get ahead of it, and like all this stuff that was just huge stuff, like the atmosphere of our planet and managing its chemistry, and there's just so much of it. There's so much atmosphere to clean up, and there's like space debris as well. Like there's so much space debris up there, and I don't think people really appreciate like how hard it's going to be to clean that up, and the timeline that it needs to be cleaned up by. Like it's on the same kind of timeline as climate change, and we're going to need to build technologies and get ahead of these solutions. But the more I see every day, the more I'm confident that we'll get there. It's one of those things. There's an image from the Imaginary Foundation where it's like a guy at a wall, and it's like the end is near, and everything's looking hopeless and like a post-apocalyptic scene, but he's standing on top of a ladder. I can see over the wall, and over the wall is the picture of the galaxy. I've always loved that. Yeah, if you haven't, you should check out the Imaginary Foundation. I used to wear an old hat by them that had a little astronaut on a surfboard. Oh man, I wore that so hard. Just completely iconic. Yeah, anyway. Until next time. And I've got something worth talking about and something to report. Be kind to yourself. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the rest of your week.